Ay ay di 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 di. Ay ay di di ay ay di di di. Ay 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 di di ay ay di di. Ay da di di di. Ay 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 di di ay di di di. Di di di. Oy 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 oy. Di di di. Welcome everybody. We are going to be studying some insights into life connected to this week's Torah portion, as revealed by the Sfas Emes, the incredible Polish Chassidic leader, visionary, really the founder of the Ger Chassidic movement. Even though his grandfather was the first, the Sfas Emes really took things to the next level. And before I jump into the learning, I want to tell everybody, please come with me to Central Europe. We are having an incredible journey, and you're all invited. The trip starts in Prague, and we're going to be in 4 countries. It's a historic trip, looking at Jewish history, it's Jewish culture, it's looking at a spiritual angle, it's a spiritual trip, and it's also a trip where we'll pay tribute and honor the memory of those who were killed in the Holocaust, visiting Majdanek and other places that are important. So it's really a very special trip. It's 8 days, led by myself and Rabbi Rabbi Shlomo Besser from New York. If you have any questions, please feel free to reach out to us. The website is vipheritagetour.com, and that just takes you to a landing page on the Pico Shul website. And please, again, if you have any questions, please reach out to us. So today's learning is from Parsha Vayechi, and this is from Taf Reish Lamed Vav. You know, I've taught this Parsha many times, and I wanted to try something a little bit different. And let's see how we connect to this. So the first question is, why is this Parsha, the way it appears in the Torah, why is there no space before the beginning of the Parsha? In other words, when you look at a Sefer Torah, you see it has breaks, sometimes spaces, large spaces, separating paragraphs, different chapters. This Parsha Vayechi does not begin on a new line, doesn't begin with a space, a new paragraph. There's no obvious visual indication that it's a new Torah portion. So it's called stuma. It's called it's literally like sealed. There's no space around it. And this is not an accident, right? Everything in the Torah is there to teach us something, to give us some kind of insight. This Parsha is coming to tell us a bunch of things. And what I wanted to connect us with, this stuma element, has to do with the concept of exile. So it says, Vayechi Yaakov, and Yaakov lived in Egypt. Now, right there is a strange word, Vayechi. Usually we see the Torah use other words for to live someplace. And also, Vayechi seems to imply a thriving. But wasn't he now in exile? Hadn't he left the Holy Land? And now he's in Egypt. Egypt, prominent, country, incredible civilization, but not known as a very spiritually profound place. The opposite. Egypt was considered the headquarters of idolatry. So how can he thrive in a place which is filled with so much impurity? The Sfas Emes explains that he lived 17 years and he thrived because he was attached to the spiritual vitality. In other words, he was spiritually connected. And all of the impurity of Mitzrayim, all of the impurity that was all around him, didn't faze him. In other words, it didn't influence him, maybe it didn't even bother him, because he was so connected. In other places, he talks about connecting to the shoresh, connecting to the truth. And then he says that the 17 years that Yaakov lived in this state of Mitzrayim were preparations for the entire exile that the Jewish people were about to have in Egypt. And he says, we don't understand how to continue the holiness in a place like Mitzrayim. And if we had understood how to continue the holiness that Yaakov was living in, it wouldn't have even been considered an exile. And that every single one of us has the ability to arouse a similar spiritual vitality. And through that spiritual life, we're able to give nourishment to our nefesh, to the different levels of our soul. And we're able to thrive even in a time of exile. Now, that's so important for us to remember, that all this episode of Yaakov living in Egypt is, the Sfas Emes tells us, a way for us to learn how to live in a world of exile. What is exile? We normally think of exile as a physical distance. I'm an American, but I'm in exile somewhere else. Or more appropriately, right? Our ancestors were in Eretz Yisrael, in the Holy Land, but they were exiled against their will. That's how we normally think of exile, as some time when a person is taken out of their homeland or leaves their homeland, not by choice, but by circumstance, by the hand of God. The Sfas Emes is coming to teach us another important concept of exile. That exile is not just a place. Exile is also a state of mind. Now, not to say that the physical exile doesn't exist, but the spiritual exile is more dangerous. Because a spiritual exile means that a person is disconnected from their spiritual source. When we're disconnected from our spiritual source, a person really is in a difficult situation. As long as we can maintain that spiritual connection, even in exile, we're going to be okay. Now, there's another famous episode in this Torah portion where Yaakov wants to reveal the end of days. And it said that this power to do that was removed from him. Why didn't God want Yaakov to reveal the course of history to his offspring? He wanted to tell them what was going to happen, and he was prevented. One might think that, that's cruel. Today we have a phrase If you're telling somebody about some kind of movie or a TV show, you tell them, wait, warning, don't read this review unless you want to get clued in, to how the story ends. In a similar fashion, that's kind of what God was doing. Because God was not afraid, but God was concerned that the Jewish people, should they know that this exile in Egypt was just one of many, many exiles along the way, that the people might have just given up hope altogether. And then not only that, this exile was going to be so difficult in Egypt, that they were going to descend to such a low, low level that they might have given up altogether. And that is why God didn't want Yaakov to reveal what was going to happen. If he had, the Jewish people might have given up hope. Now think about us now, thousands of years later, wondering what the future holds. How would it help us? How would it help us to have a prophet come and tell us what's going to happen? Maybe they would say, hey, just got to wait 5 more minutes. 5 more minutes, redemption is coming. Well, that would be great, right? Pack my bags. But what if that's not the message? What if the message is your great grandkids? They're the ones who are going to be redeemed. It's difficult for a person to say, oh, I'm going to give it my all. I'm going to try to turn the tides. I'm going to help to bring the world to justice, knowing that ultimate redemption is so far away. I think that God's doing us a favor by not giving us a clue what is going to happen down the way. Not all of us could handle it. Just like Yaakov's sons and family could not handle it if they knew exactly what was going to happen. But I want to end, of course, on an up note. Don't want, God forbid, a person to think that we've got another 3,000 years of spiritual and physical exile. So let's think about Shabbos for a moment. Shabbos is the paradigm for the redemption, right? Mein olam haba. It is a portion of the world to come. Mein olam haba. It is literally a taste of what will be in a time of redemption. So God is not cruel. God gives every single person the opportunity to taste what the future salvation is going to be like. Every Shabbos, when a person puts aside all their business affairs and focuses on their spiritual connection, focuses on their family, on their learning, on their praying, on their spiritual life, they taste what the world to come will be like. So rather than, God forbid, cruelty, God's actually incredibly compassionate. Says, yes, this is a lengthy exile, both spiritual and physical. But every single week, a person has a chance to see what it's going to be like. Now, that is my own little insight derived from some of the lessons that I've learned in the Sfas Emes. May everybody have an incredible, awesome Shabbos. Taste the Olam Haba, taste what a time of salvation and next worldliness can be about through enjoying Shabbos. Shabbat Shalom.